So welcome everyone to this panel that we just got hyped up so lovely and so wonderfully. The future of consumer engagement and brand authenticity. It's a very ambiguous, vague, and big topic, and we are excited to break it down for everybody today. We have a wonderful panel, and rather than myself trying to introduce them and failing and not giving them the credit they deserve, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. I will start on my left. Curtis, feel free to introduce yourself, and I would love if you shared one thing that isn't on your LinkedIn profile with everyone.
Oh my gosh, that's a good prompt. All right, okay. Hi everybody, my name is Curtis Calloway. I'm the brand director for. Thank you.
Yes.
That was Kelsey. I work with Kelsey, so she's supposed to
just pretend it's a random fan.
I'm the director of consumer engagement for Doritos, which is a fun role. I've been at PepsiCo 10 years. Something that's not on my LinkedIn profile. If I wasn't here, I'd probably be teaching somewhere. I come from a family of educators. My sister's a professor at UT. My mom was a professor before she retired. My dad taught fourth grade before he retired. So yeah, I think I would teach. I love developing people. So I think my greatest accomplishment is getting the folks who work for me promoted into roles that they aspire to. And I'm more excited about that than what I'm doing on a daily basis.
Love it. If we have extra time at the end, we will be administering tests, and Curtis will be grading all of them. Samantha, we're going to pass it to you.
Yeah, my name is Sam Owen. I am the director of loyalty and digital marketing at KFC. I've been at KFC for about a year, but prior to that, have spent some time in QSR in the coffee industry, and my background is in media. So I have a great love for kind of the evolving customer landscape and how technology and media is changing with it. Something that you don't know based on my LinkedIn profile. I like to think I've put everything on my LinkedIn profile, but that's not true. I've recently become a member of the cult, which is like endurance running, and specifically around if anybody is familiar, I'll be really impressed with Ragnar races. And so I've done some pretty cool overnight trail running, through the woods at 3 a.m. It's absolutely makes no sense coming out of my mouth, and I've actually done these kind of things. So yeah, that's something that I, as an adult, have grown to really love.
That sounds super safe. My name is Melissa Peace. I'm the director of brand strategy at Expedia Group across our portfolio of brands. What that means is I lead all of our content editorial, what we call media innovation, so our partnerships with Netflix and Amazon, trying to build a watch on Expedia, book on, or vice versa, watch on Amazon Prime, book on Expedia muscle, and all of our destination marketing creative. And then something that's not on my LinkedIn profile is before I decided to do corporate life, I was actually a farm apprentice at 2 regenerative farms. And so when I don't want to do corporate America anymore, you'll probably find me there.
Awesome. I love it. I didn't know these prompts beforehand, or I didn't know their answers, and I just want to focus the rest of the discussion on all 3 of those answers. So I'll get back to brand authenticity. So we have some awesome marketers up here. We also have some awesome marketers out here in the crowd with us. So I would love to start off with a bit of an exercise, a bit of a crowd exercise. The rules of this exercise are, if you believe the statement I am saying is true, put up your hand. You as well. We will all be putting up our hand if we think the statement is true. As a bit of a test, a bit of a practice, my first one is not related to the topic at hand. Did the time change catch you off guard today and throw you off? It did for me. I was very confused. I forgot it was happening. Second up, is it colder in Austin, or at least today, than you expected? Yes, great. Love the participation. Jumping into some topics relevant for this session, people are more loyal to brands they feel connected to. Yes, lots of hands raised. Number 2, consumers can tell when a brand is faking or forcing authenticity. Yes, lots of agreement. Hopefully these get a little harder. I got 2 more. People want brands to be predictable, not surprising.
Oh, how timely.
That was surprising. Wow. Brand Innovators, bring in the surprises for us.
I'm impressed.
That was, I didn't coordinate that.
You willed it.
We'll repeat it. People want brands to be predictable, not surprising. No hands raised. So people want brands to surprise them. Last one. A brand A brand's values should evolve based on consumer expectations. I think I'm somewhere in the middle on it, and it looks like most people are out there. Well, thank you for engaging with that little bit of exercise. Hopefully it's getting you thinking about the topic at hand that our lovely panelists are going to break down a little bit more. And I'd love to start by defining this panel and really breaking down what it is we're going to talk about, the future of consumer engagement and brand authenticity. We have 3 very diverse brands here, and I would love to hear from each of you. When someone thinks, hears, or engages with your brand, what do you want to come to their mind? Melissa, I'll jump over and start with you.
Okay. So what's interesting about Expedia Group is we're not just one brand. We're actually a whole house of brands. And so I'm going to give 3 explanations for each of our 3 brands. So Expedia Group as a whole, our mission is to empower travel for all. But we do that through 3 really distinct brands and consumers and honestly trip types. So we have Expedia, which that's our one-stop shop. So say you come, I want to book a flight, and you want to add a hotel and a rental car. So we really want to be the conduit from soup to nuts, you booking your trip, versus Hotels.com is that last minute, I just saw this really sick concert, I'm going to book this hotel, and that's really our brand for that. And then Vrbo is our vacation rental brand, and we're really leaning into making sure that we're the quality brand that you can trust for your family vacation and trip. So regardless, across each of those different trip types, which are all really important, we really care about being that whole mission around empowering your trip.
Yeah, I can go next. So, I mean, at KFC, it's really simple. It's like we want to be that craveable chicken. Like when you want fried chicken, that's what you want. I think what's really interesting about KFC is if I were to do a brand participate or an audience participation quiz here, I would ask you guys, does anybody not know who KFC is? And I imagine everyone knows who KFC is, right? But when you think about what KFC stands for, I think very loud and clear we hear from our customers, there's great memories around KFC and the striped bucket and kind of the quirky kernel, and lots of people remember some of the really interesting celebrity kernels that we've had over the years, and so there's kind of this brand love for this iconic brand, but not necessarily that product love. We've lost a little bit of our way in that respect, and so I think when we now think about how do we get people to think about KFC in a way that really is going to continue growing the business, it's less about we building that brand love. We want to keep that going, but also really bringing it back to the product and how delicious that product is, and really making sure that when people are thinking about the red striped bucket, it's not just a nostalgia. It is about a flavor that you've got to have when you're hungry.
Okay, so let's start with product. Doritos is a triangle, so I'll give you 3 ways to triangulate the answer to this one. Just made that up. Okay, so number 1, Doritos. When I say Doritos, and I think about this through physical response, emotional response, and then personal response. So first is I want it to be like KFC, damn delicious. That is number 1. If it's not damn delicious, then I am not doing my job properly. Second thing is I want to evoke an emotional response. So Doritos is for the bold, and that means showing up in bold ways, bold flavor, and in general, when people are consuming Doritos, we want it to be in a positive environment or a moment where, say, something is mundane and they have an opportunity to make it bigger and better. So I want Doritos to be associated with a positive emotional response. And then the third thing is I want it to be personal. And it's funny meeting new folks when I say, hey, I work on Doritos. The first thing is oh, well, I love X flavor. That is the flavor that I love. Everybody has a personal stake in the brand. And I think when we're doing our jobs well, if you can also get that personal response where they feel like they are part of an owner of that brand, you're being successful.
I love it. I love Cool Ranch. I don't think I told you.
Thank you.
It's a great
I'm
word.
there with you.
Curtis, I'd love to stick with you. I think something interesting that we were talking about before we jumped up on stage here is the notion of sometimes when people are purchasing Doritos, it is because they're in the snack aisle, they're planning a movie night, and they are just looking for a snack. How are you navigating? How are you operating as a brand? How are you strategizing to make sure that maybe in that one moment where someone is making a decision, they're going to think Doritos, and how are you building that over time? So it's really not a decision that exists just in that 1 second.
Okay. Let's do audience participation, please. If you would jot down, think, write out, like, what is your favorite flavor of Doritos? So, one moment, don't shout it out. Okay. How many of you said or wrote down nacho cheese? Okay, we got a few. How many of you said Cool Ranch? About half. How many of you, and it's a specific part of the question, are thinking or saying the purple bag? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. I feel there's also some liars out here because so thank you all for being honest. So this is one of my favorite exercises because spicy sweet chili is the name of the flavor. It's been around since the mid 1990s, and people go, "Oh my gosh, my favorite flavor of Doritos is the purple bag." They don't know the name of the product that they have been buying since the mid 1990s. So as I take a step back and think about what I do on a daily basis, I can tell you how much time I spent trying to figure out what do we name our latest innovation. Too much time considering that there's a whole bunch of people out here like, my go-to is the one that I have no idea what it's called. So that's one part. So you have to think about it in a repertoire category. People are often shopping from a number of different snacks and whatever is kind of interest to them at the time. So we spend a lot of time focusing on how does that show up at the shelf. But what's more important is also like, how do you show up on a regular basis? And the way that we do that is by showing a genuine interest in what our consumers are interested in. One of those is gaming. And gaming is something that, when I was in high school, a Friday night was 3 or 4 buddies, Doritos, Mountain Dew, and a pizza, sitting down in a basement playing Halo on the Xbox. And now fast forward, and my 12-year-old nephew is talking about he and his buddies eat Doritos and they play Roblox or something like that. So gaming is a passion point that's been connected with Doritos for decades. And so how do we lean into those passion points? But I think the part about how we think about developing that into our strategy, I've got 2 videos to show, if that's possible, to queue up the first one, and it's this one. Perfect. Let's go ahead and roll this one.
14 years ago, I started in this Doritos Super Bowl ad.
Keep your hands on my mama, keep your hands on my Doritos.
Oh. Did it hurt? Yes. But this comment was a real slap in the face. Think you could do better? Here's your chance.
Create a better Super Bowl ad and you could win $1 million.
Is there a reason why it's still looping?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Crash the Super Bowl started in 2006, and we basically gave away advertising largest platform to our consumers, and we said, you make an ad that shows us your love for Doritos. That brief hasn't changed since 2006. And it puts the consumer at the very center of how we think about everything that we do, and so that's, as we think about the strategy, that's most important. Put the consumer at the center of everything that you do, and naturally your reactions, your responses, the things you do should flow with how that consumer thinks about it. So we launched Crash the Super Bowl, and then it goes away for about 9 years, and then we brought it back this past year, and we asked our consumers to do better. The other part is listening to your consumer. So we get trolled a lot, just like everybody in here, right? And what people will say is, hey, that ad was terrible. I think I could do a better job. And so that was our kind of funny call to action. Like, okay, cool. You all say you could do better. Let's see it. So we ran the contest. We aired our spot during the Super Bowl. And if you won't mind, let's see the result.
Aliens.
Come on, man!
Doritos. Yeah.
Okay. So our consumers do an incredible job of talking about how much they love Doritos. There's so much more than I could do. And so by putting the consumer at the center of what we're doing and then allowing their voice to be heard, I think is something that helps us try to stand out so that when somebody walks into a grocery store and there's a plethora of brands, a lot of them owned by Frito-Lay, I hope they choose Doritos. And so it's how you show up. It's the passion points that you engage in. You show an interest interest in your consumer and what they are interested in, and then you just hope to build and maintain that relationship over time.
I love that. Next time I'm making my decision, I'm going to remember that aliens might try to steal the Doritos if I buy them. I'd love to build on these passion points and jump over to you, Melissa. I'd be curious to understand how across a brand portfolio and operating across the brands that you're working on, how are you building a similar strategy? How are you engaging with your consumers? How are you navigating that?
So I think this is a great question. I also appreciate audience participation, and I want you don't have to close your eyes if you feel uncomfortable with that, but think about the last trip that changed your life, the one that still runs through your brain when work is crushing your soul, that you think about, it would be really great if I could go back and do that trip. And just think about what that feels like. Like, what does that feel like? And I'm assuming right now it's prime, March. What do you have planned this summer? What are you excited about? What are you living for right now when you are heads down in emails and meetings and the end of Q1, anticipating into Q2? It's that trip. And like, that's something that we at Expedia Group live for. Like, empowering travel for all isn't just a mission. It's why we all work there. It's because we really love travel individually, but we also believe in the power that travel has to unlock your ability to see the world differently, to open up your perspective around who you are and who other people are, and then connect with that. So when we think about brand authenticity and consumer engagement, which those two words kind of make me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit, just in terms of like the marketing dojo that we speak, but when you think about those feelings, like, that is what we are trying to capture as a brand. Like, it's that feeling of excitement and that anticipation and that anxiety mixed with, like, I don't know what I'm about to get into, but it's about to blow up my world a little bit in all the best ways, is what we really try and capture. So regardless of our three different brands, that is how we brief in our creative. Is it showing that passion? Is it leading with those stories? And when you walk away from that ad, do you feel like that person is just about to have that experience of a lifetime? So I could explain that for each of our three brands, but I don't like to hear myself talk that much. So I'm actually going to show you an internal sizzle reel that our team made. Mind you, this internal sizzle reel was 2 minutes and 30 seconds long, but to a lot of coaching, that's way too long to show to you all. So just please forgive my quick time editing of this internal sizzle and enjoy.
Au revoir, mon amour. À bientôt.
Meanwhile.
Really?
Okay, I cut it off there. There's a whole host of creative, because if you think about it, we don't just have three unique brands, but we also have work that sits across our portfolio. So for example, part of the teams that I lead is everything within content editorial. So all the content that you see on all of the apps, all of our work in terms of our partnerships. But when you look at all of that, despite our really three unique tones of voices and our different audiences, we're really going after that same feeling and that sentiment and that excitement and that feeling of passion. And that is an ethos across all of our brands, and how we will continue to consistently connect with our consumers despite how travel evolves or how information evolves or how you plan your trip evolves. Like, that ethos and that feeling will be the same, and that's how we kind of make our creative accordingly.
I love it. It is almost brutal and mean to cut off Chaperone right as it is just starting. I was like already starting to dance a little bit.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'll go listen to it myself after. Sam, I'd love to jump to you, and it kind of segues nicely. I'm sure very few of you know this, but Sam is fresh off of vacation. She has not been home in, what did you say, 10 days? And you get to go home tonight. So it sounds like it was a lovely vacation. But would love to dive into KFC. As you noted earlier, historic brand, long legacy. How are you navigating, recognizing, representing the legacy of the brand with trying to stay fresh, trying to engage existing customers and also new customers, and finding that balance?
Yeah, I was on a panel yesterday, and I moderated for these like really impressive people that are running these purpose-driven businesses. And there was a question around like, how do you be choiceful in the socioeconomic, environmental topics that your company really believes in, and frankly is the foundation for your growth. And I was the moderator, so I'm biased in thinking it was an excellent question, but all of them had the same answer, which was, it's really not that hard. It goes back to who you are and knowing like what you stand for. And when you know what you stand for, it makes being choiceful in the types of tweets to respond to or the trends to jump onto. It makes that decision-making process really easy when you know who you are. And I think similarly, with KFC, I opened with like, everyone's got these nostalgic memories around like sitting around the dinner table with some fried chicken, whether it was, KFC or otherwise, right? You've got these nostalgic memories around, like in my house, it was like Burger Mondays and like Mac and Cheese Tuesdays and like Pizza Fridays and KFC Sunday. Like we ate a lot of fast food, but you kind of had that type of familial routine, and that's just not what today's consumers are going through. And for those customers that are, it's an edge case, right? It's not the standard. People are on the go. Parents have kids in karate and soccer and ballet and piano, and people are just running around all of the time. We're working more hours than ever. And so when we think about how to make KFC this like really contemporary brand, it's really important to meet our customers where they're at. And so what does that mean? I think like the cheap answer would be like, oh, you invest more in digital media and you invest more in influencers and you jump on the trends, right? Like that's kind of the like surface level answer. But the reality of it is like, why are people on social media more? Why are people listening to influencers more? Why are brands pushing digital media more? And the reason is because digital and technology makes our lives easier. And so when we think about like how to meet customers where they're at, we're thinking about, okay, how do we change our menu and also change our app and our technological services to make lives easier for our customers? And that's really like the core of like what we are trying to do in order to be contemporary. It would be easy to say like, oh, we're doing like this cool partnership and this cool activation and we're spending this in influencers, but the reality of it is, people are not buying buckets of chicken and eating like chicken on the bone in their car when they're on their way to soccer practice or when they're running late from like on the way home from work or whatever the case. And so we launched a brand new chicken tender, a really fantastic original recipe chicken tender last fall because we know that people are eating more chicken tenders because they're easy to eat in the car. I highly recommend. I do it at least once a week. We've got some great chicken nuggets. Like wings are kind of like all the rage right now. I have deep roots in Buffalo, and so I'm a big Bills fan, and I love chicken wings. But chicken wings are not easy to eat in the car, and so we launched last year our saucy nugget platform, which give you kind of that craveable like wing flavor, but in a really poppable, easy meat format. And so that's kind of like one way that we're meeting customers where they are and contemporizing the brand. I think the other kind of as the lead on digital marketing, it would be amiss for me not to really kind of shout from the rooftops what we're doing in the app space. We don't need an app to have an app, right? Like nobody is going to Chipotle because the app is awesome. But Chipotle is crushing it in app sales. It's not because their app is great. It's because their food is so fantastic, and the app makes getting that food easier. And so we're really investing in user experience in technology, whether it's in our app or kiosks or scanning for loyalty in the drive-thru. So we're just trying to be really top of mind around not just like investing in technology, but why are we investing in technology, and really understanding the friction points in people's lives that we can help solve for with our products.
I love it. That might lead into the next question. I feel like we've covered brand authenticity, we've covered consumer engagement, but we haven't quite covered the future of consumer engagement. Gen Z, Gen Alpha, it's either on the horizon for you as brands or it's the moment right now that you're tackling. Curtis, I'll start with you. How are you thinking about reaching that audience? And I'm also curious, are you seeing them resonate differently with your brand? It sounds like there's some similarities that you noted earlier, but I'd be curious to hear some more thoughts.
Gen Z. Okay. Let me take you back 10 years. So told you I've been at PepsiCo Frito-Lay for 10 years. I started on Doritos, and we had a training, and I think it was MTV who came in to do this training, and they were like, okay, y'all, there's this new generation coming, and they're really different. They're called Gen Z. And I was probably mid-20s at that point. I'm like, okay, I know who they are and kind of how we need to try to reach them. And they're like, okay, cool. Name one top 10 Gen Z influencer. I couldn't name one. The number one was a Swedish video game streamer when this was like, yes, thank you. So it was something I was thinking like, I don't know, Miley Cyrus maybe. And I was mid-20s, already had no idea who the most popular folks are for Gen Z. So they indeed different. And now obviously, I got Gen Zers reporting to me. They're different. But what I love about Gen Z is they're incredibly knowledgeable. There's so much information that they have access to, and it's the most culturally diverse generation in history, only to be replaced by the most culturally diverse generation in Gen Alpha after that. And so for Doritos, we think about, hey, what are they interested in? We think about passion points. How do you show up in those passion points in a really unique and again, authentic way? We've used the word a lot. But in a way that kind of speaks to them. And the other part of how we think about connecting with Gen Z is also flavor. So how do we develop flavors that Gen Z is interested in? Because what spicy nacho, for instance, when it was launched in the mid-90s, probably spicy for a lot of people. Today, very different story, right? And when you think about Gen Z, they love especially ethnic food, and Golden Sriracha, the product that we just launched about a month ago, is based on some of that like Gen Z passion of looking for new and unique flavors that are kind of out there. And so I think for us, it's how do we make sure that our product portfolio and the flavors that we have continue to resonate with our target audience. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are showing up in a way that is, I guess, real to them. And we're not trying to be fake. And it's like, hey, I think you like this. We hope you do. Please tell us what you think, and how do we use that feedback mechanism back into our business to continue to improve it. So Gen Z is incredibly important. We try to make sure that we're staying very close to what they know and what they like, and are listening to what they say.
Let it rip down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the age-old question in any business I've worked in, whether it's Gen Z or Gen Alpha or at once upon a time it was millennial. It's always how do you kind of balance the critical mass, the customers that are driving critical mass for your revenue with that kind of like up and coming generation, because it really is a long-term strategy. I'll share a little bit about myself. I have a sister who is very much Gen Z and reminds me consistently that I am not cool, no matter how much I try. And I recently, I had this sweater on that I thought was very cool. It had a pony and like a galaxy in the background. And my brother laughed at me, and he was like, I was like, what? And he's like, I'm surprised that you have that sweater. And I was like, what do you mean? And my sister goes, yeah, it's giving mad aura points. And I was like, what the hell is an aura point? I don't know if I literally did not know what this meant. And I asked, and then she kind of rolled her eyes and refused to answer the question, because that was a cringy question to ask, to which my brother then had to explain to me what aura points were, and that I negated any aura points that I had gained in wearing the sweater with asking the question. And so I'm back at a net 0, right? And I was like, gosh, this is so frustrating talking to you people. And I can't believe we're related. But I tell this story because as a marketer, it's so easy to just really focus on your core customers. And the reason why we do that naturally is because we're sales driven. As marketers, we are accountable for a number. And what's happening in the background is brands are constantly gaining and losing aura points with these younger generations generations that are one day going to be critical mass. And it's a hard thing to focus on in the day-to-day because like it's not affecting your immediate bottom line. But there is such, it's so important to remember that like how you show up every day is your legacy. Like it is what's it's going to have trickle-down effects in the next 5, 10, 20 years. And so I think, admittedly, KFC like lost its way a little bit for a handful of years where like we were just so focused on that bucket. We were so focused on that familial dinner time moment. And that's still really important. It's still a really, really big part of our business for a lot of people around the country. But the QSR space is incredibly competitive and the customers are incredibly promiscuous, and chicken is like the moment. Like, you look at all these chicken brands, there's a few here. And there's just so many of them. And so customers have so many choices. And it's really, really important that we are remaining contemporary and we're weaving in some of those brand elements that are going to resonate with those younger generations, even though it's not like today's immediate problem. That continues to be like a really important strategy for us in the background as we continue to build the brand of tomorrow.
Okay, and to wrap it up, I think like the thing that I walk away from hearing all of that is just like a reminder as marketers or just in this room is we're not necessarily trying to market, we're just talking to other humans. And so just a reminder of like what humans are we talking to and what do they need to hear? And so like when I thought about this question, to be honest, I really struggled with Gen Z, Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is like the age of my kids. I was like, there's no way Expedia is targeting these young people. But if you think about it, actually as a mom, my kids influence a ton of where we travel. So I'm planned a whole entire spring break that I leave next Friday. And we're going to fly into San Diego and then we're going to do Legoland, which I want to kind of cry thinking about doing that with 2 young kids by myself. And then we're going to hike Joshua Tree. And this is all because of just random things that they shouted out at the dinner table of what they wanted to do for spring break. And here I am about to spend a couple $1,000s on the influence of Gen Alpha, or even less. I don't even know what generation they're in. But that's like from a Expedia perspective, like I think we can get really nuanced of like who's our target and what do they really want and how do we really target them on TikTok to get the things that we need. In reality, we just need to like sit back and think about like we're talking to other human beings. We're about to plan a trip of a lifetime. So what information do they need to get to where they want to go? And that is really a core ethos of how we at Expedia are doing that. So yes, like we can get hyper focused on our TikTok strategy and our creator influencer content, but at the end of the day, like our core ethos is just how do we make sure that we're still really authentic as a brand, being the conduit from you getting to the moments and places that matter most to you, which transcends all generations.
Awesome. Love it. I'm going to ask one last question of the 3 of you. As we have spoken during this session about consumer engagement, a theme that comes to my mind is loyalty. Really what marketers are trying to do is one, naturally acquisition, but then trying to keep and engage the consumers. And I think loyalty is more than a loyalty program. It's more than a point system. It is believing in a brand, wanting to leverage a brand. Apple, for example, has no loyalty program, but I know when I go buy my next phone, I'm going to buy Apple because their product works, it works for me, it fits my lifestyle. And I'm curious to hear from each of you, beyond kind of the acquisition side, how are you thinking of building that loyalty, and how do you think the ways you're engaging with your consumers is going to help build that long-term loyalty?
Okay, this one's tough for, do you?
You go.
Okay. This one's tough for Doritos because, I talked earlier, we're in a repertoire category. Consumers often switch between brand to brand to brand depending on how they're feeling, and it's not subscription where it's like, hey, I buy this detergent because, I don't know, it doesn't make my skin react or whatever. And so context is important and understanding kind of how do consumers shop for snacks. I'll go back to a little bit about what I touched on earlier of developing a relationship and a connection with consumers. So, for example, I think about it like developing a new friendship or dating where you should show an interest in what the other person is interested in. I will find myself at an estate sale on Saturday mornings, not because I woke up thinking, oh man, I really want to go to an estate sale, but because my wife, who I love, is really interested in estate sales. And, I like spending time with her, and I want to show an interest in what she is doing. So let's take that example and then bring that back to the consumer. I'm thinking, and I loved your point about humans, right? These are humans, and you want to connect with them. You want to show an interest in what they are interested in, and you want to be like, hey, we're here, and I'm not trying to sell you something. I just want to show you that I'm a fan of this particular thing. And I mentioned gaming earlier. There was a very a niche kind of gaming program called Games Done Quick. Familiar? Okay, thank you. So a very niche gaming program, a small audience, but we showed up in a way and we threw out some subs, which is basically like, hey, giving subscriptions to YouTube streamers from the Doritos handle. And he was like, holy shit, Doritos, like the Doritos? And it was a person, there were maybe 8,000 people on the stream. It wasn't in this massive engagement, but it developed that one-on-one connection. And he was like, oh my gosh, thank you for showing up to my thing, to my show, and supporting me. I love Doritos. I'm going to buy them. And then the chat just went crazy with, oh my gosh, I love Doritos. So show an interest in what that consumer is interested in, and be there as a part of them to participate in that event with them to develop that relationship. Same thing as developing a new friendship or staying married. I think it's something that I try to take into my daily life of, okay, with this consumer and how they're changing, how do we continue to show an interest in what they are interested in, and make sure that we are the way in which we do show up isn't just I'm trying to sell you something. It's, hey, I'm also a fan of this. Let's enjoy this experience together.
Yeah, that's a tough one to follow, especially because I also love estate sales.
I know somebody I can connect you with. Y'all would have a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two things. I love what you said, Michael, about, like loyalty is so much beyond like a point system and an app program. And, I would love to take credit for KFC sales and and say that it's because I have an awesome app, like my team's doing a great job building an app and a loyalty program. But like that's just not the case. I think depending on where you are in your business model, you've got to have a great customer product experience first. If you don't have a solid product that people already love, you're wasting your efforts, right, on like a loyalty and acquisition strategy. And I think sometimes as business leaders, we try to kind of put loyalty in a bucket where it's like, okay, like go put a tech loyalty person over here and build out a CRM strategy, and like you've got loyalty. And it's like that's really not where it starts. It starts with product love. And so first and foremost, I think you've got to figure that out. And then, I think also you've got to remember, I like to put like my marketer hat on, like in the morning, like at 9 a.m. when I log on, and like throughout the day, I'll take my marketer hat off and I'm like, okay, like, does this make sense, like as a customer? And like, is this what the customers really want? And I think it's really easy to get caught up in like all of the exciting loyalty marketing stuff that's going on in the industry right now, between like AI and between like app technology and all that. And it's really important to remember that like at the end of the day, like you got to give the people what they want if you want them to keep coming back, especially if you're in an industry that is quite, like promiscuous or where customers are kind of trading across competitors. And so, we spend a lot of time investing in like personalized strategies. And I know that's like a kind of a buzzy like phrase, but it's really important because at the end of the day, like if I'm going to make this up, like if beverage sales are down, the answer is not to like push beverage down everyone's throats, right? Like maybe you just don't want a Pepsi. And so I think that's where like we're really investing in predictive technologies that are going to help provide the right loyalty messages and the right loyalty products and value strategies and promotions based on who you are personally and based on your past experiences with the brand. And so that's where I think like when we talk about like loyalty and growth and like really kind of in that more advanced stage of developing loyalty, because again, the first stage is just having an excellent product experience. In that more advanced stage, it's really about personalization and making sure that you're able to scale those types of messages for your unique cohorts of people.
Melissa, bring us home.
All right, to bring us home, I'm going to wrap with some audience participation. So I am curious, which out of all of y'all's brands, who has loyalty programs connected to it? Okay, so then for your favorite brands, if you think about my favorite brand in the whole wide world, how many of you choose that brand because of its loyalty rewards program? Okay, we got one. So I would say the same for Expedia. We have loyalty programs. I think they're pretty great. So for example, if you were to book let's just say a $5,000 vacation on Vrbo for you and your extended family, you can then use those points to book a flight or a hotel on ExpediaHotels.com. I think it's pretty sick. But that's not why we want people to come back to us again and again. We want people to come back to us again and again, kind of like what you're doing, Curtis, with your wife every Saturday. And you are consistent about doing it and delivering on what she needs when she needs it, which is showing up for that estate sale and getting that item. And so for Expedia, we want to show up, give the people what they want, and be consistent about it. And that's, I would say, the same for like my favorite brand. My favorite brand is H-E-B. I probably spend $1,000 a month. My financial advisor hates me. But the buttery tortillas and the Buddy Bucks and like the produce is consistent and always delivers what I want, no matter the H-E-B, no matter the sales configuration of the store. But it is consistent and I love it. And so like for our brands and just thinking about how do we deliver an experience that people love and being the same and consistent over and over again. And so I will bring us home there unless we have more time, but
I think that's it. Mad aura points for that answer.
Oh, thank
you. Really
you.
Good.
I think I need a unicorn spaceship sweater.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for all the audience participation. And thank you to my lovely panelists here.